feminism and socialism. You got it right? Good. Dr. Tanu holds a PhD in post-colonial studies and is passionate post-colonialist. She actively engages in teaching community programs on topics such as neoliberalism, neoliberalism, ecology, and feminism. Dr. Tanu has delivered conferences on ecofeminism at the School of Ecology in Mauritius and conducted workshops on ecofeminism for women employees in Roderick. Her teaching interests include capitalism and gender-based discrimination, diversity and inclusion, and lastly, indigenous cultures and resistance. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Babita as she sets the stage for us. Woo! Welcome, Dr. Tabita. Dr. Babita, can you hear me? Dr. Babita. Okay, ladies, while we're waiting, Dr. Babita. Okay, ladies, I think she can hear me clearly.
Hello.
So,
Hello, sorry about that.
Okay,
Hello,
thank you.
I'm really sorry about the tech issues.
No problem.
Hi.
You can continue.
I really want to thank you for the invitation, and I'm really impressed by your enthusiasm and engagement on Saturday evening. So first, I really want to emphasize that I'm approaching the topic from a more socialist perspective, given that this is where I specialize in. And I will not point out to as much saving tips as you might get from all your friends, but I want you to think more globally in what context we are currently working in, we're currently evolving in. Since we only have 10 minutes, I'm sorry, I'm not going to spend a lot of time expanding on those topics, but I do wish that you would take them up and explore them in depth. So the first topic I want to engage with is economic precarity. Now, you all agree that within African countries, we are made to feel very insecure about our condition. We're made to feel very insecure about the future, very insecure about how to plan for the future, or even what the economy will look like. Now, we do have to bear in mind that economic precarity is deliberately designed and orchestrated by the capitalist system, because we do live in a world where corporates are way bigger than states, and they have put into place systems that are aimed at profiting from us at all times. So we just need to look at the reports of profits from the big corporates such as Shell. Like for 2023, Shell actually adjusted earnings of $28.25 billion. Okay. Whereas a Nestle made a profit of $47.923 billion. So that shows to us how we do live in contexts where we are constantly subject to massive exploitation by the global corporate system. Okay, and the way to think about it in more depth is to consider to what extent our daily food comes from those corporates and how they are profiteering from us constantly. For example, you just have to bear in mind brand names such as Kellogg's, Nestle, Unilever, literally they are making billions on a daily basis. Okay, so in that context where we are reduced to a status of consumers, when we are being told to make savings, we do feel kind of disempowered, particularly in a context where food prices are rocketing. I'm not sure how it is across your countries. It might be different in countries where you have more local production, but in Mauritius, where almost 70% of our food is imported, currently we are suffering massively from the hike in food prices. Now, these companies will blame climate crisis and say, okay, there have been a climate crisis in countries that supply food, and that is why the prices are going up. But actually, when we look at the reality, it is true that multiple countries are now being hit by catastrophes related to the weather. For example, we can take India, that experienced severe drought and now it's experiencing severe floods, and they have reduced their exports of wheat and flour, which implies that we are having to pay higher prices. But when we look into depth, when we do the research, we do see that corporates are actually profiteering from a system of food insecurity by hiking prices artificially. For example, if we look at the cost of freight, which is directly responsible for the cost of food going up and up. And this is going up despite the fact that petrol prices are going down. So this is due to a system that we are operating in. We are operating in what we call is the neoliberal system, whereby government, states work closely with corporates and are literally driven by corporates to keep food prices high. So we do live in a condition where suddenly in many countries, people are spending more and more and have less and less to save, simply because food prices have gone up, fuel prices have gone up. In Mauritius, houses prices have gone up. We can't buy houses in Mauritius anymore because they are selling the land to foreigners. There is a shift from local agriculture to imported food constantly, and that puts us in a context of what we call precarity. And when we are in a state of precarity, it's very, very difficult to save, particularly for the youth, because in a context of rising prices, you have to spend more and your salary remains fixed, and it's much more difficult. And another issue I really want you guys to think about carefully is the concept of hyperconsumerism. I mean, you mentioned it earlier that we tend to overspend, and I want you to really think about hyperconsumerism as again, a mode of life that has been engineered by corporates because they rely on constant spending. So they have shaped the illusion that consumption brings happiness, that the new t-shirt or shoes you will buy will make you trendy and fun to hang out with. So they've driven us to equate consumerism with happiness. Now, in that context, we find that young people are reduced to debt and they're entrapped in cycles of constant spending, precisely because they're targeted by marketing experts to remain lifelong consumers. If you think about the Apple brand, for example, once you buy Apple, you have to remain loyal to Apple, otherwise your product becomes obsolete. So it's a very expert use of psychology to draw young people into constant consumption. So what happens is young people, particularly young women, are victims of the advertising world that leads them into debt and overspending, which in turn leads to rising levels of depression among young people. Because hyperconsumerism is about short bursts of happiness after each purchase, but it does not last, for that product is not trendy for long. So in that context where we're working, buying, shopping, being happy for a short term, gradually that cycle leads to depression and saving becomes almost not possible because we feel that we need to buy more and more to be fashionable or to actually be able to function. Because there's another issue that gets us to spend so much, and that's what we call inbuilt obsolescence. So it's like, consider your phone. It has a very short lifespan and it goes out of date. It's simply not useful of it after a short period of time. So it means that even though you might be quite wise and not want to buy the latest iPhone that costs a massive fortune, you still have to purchase a phone that is viable. And that means constant updating, constant spending. So products are deliberately made with a short lifespan. Okay, and let's take another example, that of fast fashion. Okay, so if you look at fast fashion, you know, it won't last more than half a year. You wear it 3-4 times, it's done for, it's torn, it's worn out. So what we have is this manufactural world, again, a corporate world bet on profit, extracting resources from the planet, using cheap labor and selling things that won't last, which gets us again into a pattern of constant spending. So what we have is a world driven by corporate profiteering that reduces us to mindless consumption. So in that world, we have to become strong and we have to resist. And it is very important for the youth, particularly young women, to be mindful of how that world preys upon us, particularly women. Advertisers target women because we're made to feel we're never good looking enough. We don't have the right hair. We don't have the right skin. Even our teeth is wrong. So they keep selling products to us. So it's in a world where we are under attack. We are under assault. Okay. And so how do we become stronger and safe? Right. So we need to understand that system. We need to be able to take a step back and understand what are the goals so as to resist it. So how do we resist it? It does take, you know, constant thinking and planning and building networks with those who are resisting, those groups that do resist. For example, we have the wonderful group called Rural Women Assembly across Southern Africa, across the SADC countries, that really teaches us that, you know, we can change our modes of life. So what we need to do is really not endorse what capitalists want us to do, that is to be consumers. Okay, we need to enforce our identity as human beings with independent thinking and capacity to make our own choices. Okay, and we can actually build patterns of responsible consumption that will not leave us penniless at the end of the month. So we can look for products that will last. We can engage and repair, recycle as far as, you know, as we can. We can actually stop buying. Okay, so we don't equate buying with joy. We consider joy as, you know, what the time is what we spend with loved ones. Joy as the time we make for people who are closest to us, right? So we can look at products and consider how much labor they have used, how much energy and waste that has gone into each product, and review those products and not just go for them because they're cheap. I mean, in all the streets of Mauritius, you will see that you can buy a t-shirt for 100 rupees or even 50 rupees. But do bear in mind the cheap labor that has gone into that. That's somebody's sweat and tears. That's somebody's life that has gone into that, who's being so underpaid that that t-shirt is being sold for 50 or 100 rupees. So then we can think about, okay, that's not the world I want. I'm not going to be a mindless consumer and just keep buying and buying cheap stuff that will make me depressed at the end of the day. I can look for the local sustainable product. I can look for the locally made product. I can choose to consume responsibly. Another concept that we need to think about in order to resist a system where we're made to just spend is to really embrace the concept of degrowth. We can't keep on consuming. Degrowth means we step back, we consume less. Okay, when we consume less, they will have to stop producing at some point. Okay, we need degrowth in order to save the planet. Okay, so we need to look at ways of life that counter the mindless consumption capitalism imposes on us. Okay, so what ways of life are those? Those are ways of life that our people had before, our communities had before. So we need to consider, for example, the Ubuntu spirit. So capitalism is about individualism. Oh, I have to dress better than my friend. I have to wear the same shoes. I have to look trendy. Ubuntu is, I will be good if my friend is feeling good. Okay? If people in my community are suffering in a factory to produce clothes, this is not something I want to embrace. I'd rather support the person who is caring about the employees and yet selling something a bit more expensive because it is worth it, because the employees are worth it. Okay, so rather than individualistic pursuit of short-term pleasure for shopping, we need to go back to what makes a community strong: the family communion, the community togetherness, etc. The moment that brought people together. So we may consider, you might think, okay, there are ways to save money, practical ways that capitalism tells us, just use apps. But do bear in mind that what our communities had before. We were functional societies before capitalism came. Okay, we were strong societies before capitalism came. I just have to think of Nigeria, where women run the markets. Women are the business people. In fact, one of the first moments of retaliation against colonialism were women who refused to run the market. Okay, and they literally implemented the first strike against the colonizers. So women used to run the economy, and women still run the economy because they run the agriculture, they run the market, they run small businesses. So they are not mindless consumers. They have ways of engaging with businesses that were functional for thousands of years. Okay, so we need to think about what they were doing. They had closed loop production, meaning people were producing and consuming within the same country, we were not flooded by foreign products. Okay, so consumption was mindful and supporting the local economy. We also have to think about ways that our grandmothers had to save money. Again, it's the richness of our cultures, the richness of our people, the richness of our indigenous histories. You know, in Mauritius, we have this system where that's called SITE, S-I-T-E. It's literally where you have a group of women coming together, and each one of them contributes a sum of money, an equal sum of money per month to the group. Now, per month, then one member of that group will get that huge sum of money. So what we have is a way of saving that allows each woman of the group to access quite a huge sum of money, and they're not paying interest, and they're not losing money at all. And it creates a community of trust and care. Okay, it's not about going to a big bank where you're taking a loan and having to pay back very high interest, and when you have to be indebted for a lifetime. Okay, just consider student loans. These are the worst form of debt we have at the moment, and it drags on. We've seen it in the USA, we've seen it in the UK. Now in the UK, they do get help from the government to refund those loans, but in the USA, it's an absolute downside to somebody's life to leave university with a massive loan on their backs. Okay, so we need to rethink and research ways of supporting each other that goes beyond those big financial institutions that literally feed off our lives.
Excuse
like vampires
me,
do. Yes.
Please wrap up.
Sure, yeah, I'm nearly done. I just have one last thing to do. Okay, I'm sorry. I know we had those connection issues earlier, but yeah, that's what I really wanted to end with, is to think about indigenous systems of saving and operating businesses. So yes, it's good to know how the financial system operates, but bear in mind that the financial system is out there to profit from you. Okay, so thank you very much, and I hope I have got you to think in a way that is different and productive. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. That was a really insightful presentation you delivered there. And I would like to take you through the comments that have been delivered by our young female leaders in the chat box. So Elizabeth said, I think that because as women, most physically, emotional, buy all these products we need to start really reading up in the products we use, their origins. Once we see that our sneakers have been made in sweatshops by young people, what I mean by this is once we see the story of the product, we can start consciously start buying instead of buying for the sake of buying. Also, Elizabeth said, being disciplined with money where there isn't enough is a weird space to be. Thank you so much, Dr. For making time to giving us this really informative information. So, to the YFLs, please post. You're welcome, Dr. Please post on your social media platforms. Tag the Amazon Leadership Initiative. We're on Instagram. We're on LinkedIn. We're on Facebook. Please do tag us when you're posting. You can use your hashtag Saving Wisely, any hashtag that you feel like relates to this webinar. Please do post. So let's continue to our next speaker. This is really interesting. How many of us have those installment loans, the clothing store credit cards, the airtime advance bill, and the likes? Okay, maybe just a few of us do, but this really takes us to our second speaker for the night. So our speaker will be taking us through credit score and reports. The next speaker to be doing this is Miss Dadivanashe Hazel Ngani. So who is Miss Ngani? She's a 23-year-old young female leader based in Zimbabwe. She's a computational economist, final year student with a passion for poetry and holds best interest in financial literacy. Her diverse set of interests, including economics and computational methods, have given her a unique perspective and depth of thought. She believes knowledge is power and is committed to using her skills to help others to make informed decisions about their finances. How amazing is that? Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our second speaker for the night, Ms. Hazel Ngani.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much, my sister Winnie. I am very excited to be here. Thank you very much for the introduction. And to my previous speaker, the lady, Doctor, who spoke before me, I noted quite a lot of points. Thank you very much. It was very educative. Okay, so I am Tadiwanashe Zongani, as Winnie has said. I am going to take you through the credit score and reports. And basically, what I'm going to be doing is making you understand more on how to improve your credit. Okay, so I'll start by trying to define credit score in a way that you might understand. So basically, credit scores take it like a report card. We all know report cards, right? Report card that lenders use to assess how likely you are to repay borrowed money. And let's say, it is higher scores indicating indicating greater credit worthiness. The most widely used credit scores are, for example, the FICO score, and the other one is Vantage score. But today I'm not going to delve much on that. I'm just going to give you the surface information since I already have a limited time. So I'm going to move on credit reports, the details behind the score. So there are three major credit bureaus, that is Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. Each maintains a credit report on you containing details about your credit history, including, I'm going to give you several points on this one. The first point is payment history. And we all know payment history is very important because timely payments are key. On another issue, we go on the second point, amount owed. This refers to your credit utilization ratio. which is calculated basically by credit used divided by the credit limit. And please note, keeping it below 30% is ideal. I mean, keeping it below 30% is the most ideal thing you can do on amount owed. Moving on to another point, length on credit history. Longer credit history with responsible management generally translates to a better score. I mean, longer credit history with responsible management translates to a better score. You need to know that point. It's very, very important in credit reports. Another point, I'm going on credit mix. Having a mix of credit types like credit cards and installment loans can positively impact your score, your whole credit score. Last but not least on the points I have here, new credit inquiries. Applying for too much credit in a short period can lower your credit score. It might give the lender an idea that you are not credit worthy, because if you are going to lend as much money to many people or to many bureaus at once, it means you are not organized, or you might actually fail to pay it back. So you need to make sure your relationship with the lender is okay, and to make sure that relationship is okay, making sure that this short period credits are not involved in your credit reports. And now to answer the main question, understanding and improving your credit. I also have several points on this one. For the first one, I'll say obtain a free credit report. I mean, you are entitled to a free credit report from each bureau annually. Review for errors and dispute any if you find. You are allowed to dispute errors because it is your report. So you're allowed to dispute any errors and settle any issues when you find them. Going on to another point, pay bills on time. To make sure your relationship is okay with everyone, I mean, even with friends, even with relatives, even anywhere in the world, you have to make sure you pay back your debts in time. I mean, this is the most significant factor affecting your score. So you have to make sure paying your bills on time is top tier of your objectives and all your goals. Okay, another point is manage credit cards balances. Keep your utilization ratio low. I think I told you about how to calculate your credit utilization back in credit reports where I was talking about amount owed. So you have to make sure you keep it low. The one which I say you should keep your you should keep it below 30% amount owed. So now I'm saying keep your utilization ratio low for you to manage your credit balance well. Moving on to another point, you should maintain old accounts. I was talking to my sister last week. I opened a CABS account here in Zimbabwe, I think in 2019, and I haven't been using it. But I went to the bank recently. They sent me a message that I had to pay some money because costs had piled up, even though I wasn't using it. So that's a bad issue, because now I have to pay for services which I didn't even use. And if I'm to go to banks to ask for a loan today, they will assess that, and that will make issues for me, because I will look like someone who doesn't pay their bills on time, or someone who's not trustworthy. So you have to go back and maintain those accounts. You don't have to close your oldest accounts, as they contribute to your score. By closing all the accounts, it might look like you are a fraud or something. So you keep them open, but you make sure you maintain them. Moving on to another point, consider a credit builder loan. If you have credit history, a credit builder loan can help establish a positive record. Okay, conclusively, what I'm trying to say is, by understanding the concept and following these tips, you can take control of your credit score and unlock better financial opportunities for yourself. This is all I had. I tried to fit it in the 10 minutes I was given by my sister Winnie. Thank you very much for awarding me this opportunity to speak. I hope I have helped a lot. Thank you very much, Sister Winnie. I'm handing back the mic to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hazel. Ladies, you will agree with me that, as you can all hear, Hazel is facing connectivity issues, but regardless, she's here giving us this marvelous presentation. We are really thankful. And by the way, she's a young female leader from Zambia. From Zimbabwe, from Zimbabwe. Yes. Thank you so much. Okay, from what she said, it is important to track and improve our credit score. And by what she was saying, my take is that credit is not as bad if you keep it low, if you manage it. Do you know what that means? That means paying your airtime bills on time. That means paying your installment loans on time. That means paying your store credit cards on time, and whatever credit cards you have, by the way. So you need to pay them on time so that you get access to credit. Imagine in the future, you want to purchase a car or a house for that matter, and then they deny you that. They deny you the credit. How bad is that? It could get worse even. So ladies, please make sure you're paying people on time. Do not block people. Do not run away from your debts. Please do that. Thank you so much, Ms. Hazel. That was a wonderful, wonderful presentation. For those of you who just joined in, please check in the chat box. There are links to our social media platforms. Make sure you are tagging us out there. Let the people know, that the people know about the Amazon leadership, let the people know about the seminar so that you can share the insights later, right? So, moving on, it's getting harder and hotter in here. So, moving on, how many of us in here know about investing? I think almost all of us know about that, right? How many of us have taken part in the fast money-making schemes, the likes of Triple M? Okay, maybe not all of us, or not even most of us did. But the danger of wanting to have money is that we want instant money. We don't have the courage to wait longer. But because we have people like Ms. Angelina Sinohe to hold our hand through it all, this is going to be a very easy journey. So our next guest speaker is Ms. Angelina Sinohe, and she'll be taking us through introduction to investment, that is stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, right? Okay, so Ms. Angelina Sinoge is a financial influencer who specializes in personal finance, respectively, investing, saving, budgeting, and financial planning. She holds 2 degrees in finance and investments. She is currently pursuing double master degrees, one in finance at the University of Free State in South Africa, and another in business management, specializing in risk management and the management at the University of Applied Sciences at Salzburg, Austria. You may have came across her as she's very active on TikTok and Instagram through the Money Space 101 platform. That's how I knew of her as well. Yes. So she founded it in 2023 and has gained a combined following of over 80,000 for her interactive financial content. She has currently branched into Facebook as well as YouTube to further equip people with knowledge. Ms. Angelina has shared several videos of how to save and invest money and has been categorized as a young Black authoritative woman in personal finance space. Ladies, please welcome, put your hands, your virtual hands together for Ms. Angelina Senoge. Yay, yay. I want to see the fire emojis in the chat box. I want to see that. Whoop, whoop. Welcome, Ms. Angelina. Please take us through, ma'am.
Hello, everyone. So I realize that this is a very serious topic, so I want to put a face to it. You know, probably because I'm a content creator, so I always just like people connecting with the person that's talking, because I'm about to talk about something that's quite fragile, you know. So thank you so much for the welcome. So let's get right into it because I can see the time need to run. So talking about investments, right? I'm just going to also highlight on what Elizabeth said in the beginning of the session on that people do not, especially the Black community, we're not exposed to investments. You know, it's something that looks like, oh, it's for the rich, or it's for this other race, or it's for these type of people, or it's for people that are working. You know, it's not something that is introduced as, oh, it's also for you, Black child who's living in the townships. It's also for you, Black child coming from the rural areas, or it's also for you, Black child coming from the villages. You know, it's always something that looks like it's boxed and for specific type of people. And I think the reason why I started the Money Space 101 is because I wanted to break through these myths around investments and generally just personal finances, and just showing people that honestly investments are for everyone. They are for you, they are for me, they are for each and every single person. They don't have oh, you need to earn 10,000 rand a month, you need to earn 5,000 rand a month, you need to be a doctor, you need to be this. They don't have a profession to it. You yourself can start investing. And just sharing a short story about myself. I started investing in my second year of university. So I was 21, no wait, I was 20 years old at that time. So I started investing when I was 20 years old. So I was like, you know what? I want to invest, but I only have 300 rand. And I remember that what was going on was, I remember the time what was going on, it was the whole COVID-19, and it was generally a time where people were pulling out of their investments, right? So I'm not to hear myself. Thank you. I was not able to hear myself. Okay, so where was I? As I was saying, so I remember this time during COVID-19 was 2020, March, and lockdown level 5, everything shut down, and I was like, I still want to invest. And what I always read up on about investments is that you always invest when the market is like down. So basically where prices are down and basically where the economy generally is not doing well. So that when the economy goes up, you go up with it as well, right? So that's generally like how I always simplify investments for myself. So you always start investments here and you go up with them, right? So I remember this time people were pulling out of their investments because everyone is scared. Everyone thinks that the world is ending because of this whole COVID-19. And I remember something that I read in one of Warren Buffett books. So something you should also invest in, to read books on investments. He said that when you invest, when other people are running, you go for it. And when other people are going for it, you run for it. So you always apply the reverse psychology type of thing. So I remember that time people were actually like selling their shares. People were just scared of putting their money anyway. And with the whole thing of petrol prices going down, so which meant that companies that basically produce diesel, petrol, they were also performing poorly. And at that time, I was aiming and gutting for Sasol shares. And I remember Sasol shares, they literally dropped to 25 rand. 25 rand, and this was coming from 400 and something. it dropped like drastically, and people, it was like a shock. It was everywhere on the news. I don't know if maybe you also saw it somewhere during that time, but it was very popular. The Sasol shares, they went down drastically, and I was like, I am buying these shares. I was like, I don't want to get left behind. But the only thing is that I was just a student and I just had this 300 Rand. I didn't have tens and thousands of money for me to invest like other people did. Like, you know, some people, they invested like a lot of money and then became millionaires literally after the whole COVID-19 period, because then Sasol shares then went up again, right? Back to like 300 and something prices. So what you need to understand, but just by my explaining the whole thing of like the petrol prices going down, I knew, for instance, that okay, yes, fine, this is something that's affecting Sasol, but I am confident, and because of the research that I've done, looking at how Sasol has been performing, and how long it has been as well there in the markets, I know that definitely that it is going to increase, right? And also looking at what analysts say. So there's so many things that go into what to do when you're deciding for investments. So I'm not going to go so much into that. You can definitely check out my page for that, as I do talk on such things. So now talking on like, why do we invest? Like, what is the point? Why can't I just save my money, budget, just earn my money, spend on things that I can afford, don't spend things like, why do we do it? What is the point? You know, and what I always say is that the reason why you invest is because you want to create money that works for you, right? Because the money that you go for at work each and every single day, that's the money that you work for. And the reason why you invest, you try to generate income that works for you, try to generate money that works for you, right? And this is in the form of compound interest. So you know that, for instance, if you're going to save your money through a bank, traditional bank, for instance, the interest rate is pretty much fixed and it's not competitive compared to what you would get if you were to invest, right? So that is where then compound interest comes into place when we talk about investments. So then compound interest, it's where basically for instance, let's say I have 100 Rand today, and then it grows by 10% tomorrow. And then that money that I have, it grows again by 10%, grows again by 10%. And that's why then you end up people saying that, oh, my investments, they increased with 500%. It sounds very unrealistic and very crazy, but that's actually what compound interest means. Your money literally folds itself over and over and over and over again, right? So just going into the types of investments that you can go to, it's important that you know what type of investor you are. And I always stress this out, right? We are not the same. You need to know what type of investor you are. There are 3 types of investors. There is assertive investor. If you're an assertive investor, it means that you are afraid of risk. You don't want a lot of risk. This is assertive risk investor. And then the second one is your moderate investor. So you're somewhat in the middle, right? So you're not assertive, you're also not too much. You're just like, okay, I want a balance. And then there's aggressive investor. Aggressive investors, they love risk. They live for risk. They love it. It does not stress them out. These are the people that would do things like Forex, people that will invest into things like cryptocurrencies. So when you know the type of investor that you are, you will know what type of investments to also invest into. So then when you lose stuff, you won't be like, oh, they scammed me, or I got scammed. You just didn't have knowledge of it. You know, I've heard so many people say that Forex is a scam, cryptocurrency is a scam. Those things are not a scam. It's just that you did not have knowledge of it, so you lost your money. That's the only reason. But if you had more knowledge of it, you would know that losing money is part of the game of Forex. Losing money is part of the game of cryptocurrencies. Hence, people that do it and people that love risk, they still go back and put in more money because they understand that there's a risk component to it. So hence, then it's important that you know what type of investor you are. Are you assertive? You don't want risk at all? Are you like balanced in the medium? So I'm more like moderate to aggressive. It depends on what day it is, to be quite honest. Some days I feel like, you know what, I'm very confident, I can be very risky. Some days I'm like, let me just be a bit safe. Some days I'm like, okay, I'm very safe. So it can differ. So the types of investments that I'm going to be talking about, it's the stocks, bonds, as well as mutual funds. So stocks, which you might know as shares. No, I think that's how we call it in African countries, to be quite honest. I think stocks is the term that's more used in first world countries, but then you must know it by shares, so company shares. So company shares, you can get them as local shares, so it is of your respective country. So for instance, South African countries, you can get it from the GSE stocks, but then for instance, some countries do not have their local stocks. So it also depends on if your respective country has an exchange, has a local exchange. But if it doesn't, the nice thing about investments is that you can literally always venture into other investments outside of your country. You can venture into US stocks, and you can do this through brokers if they are available in your country. And it's important to know, okay, if these brokers, do they allow me as this person of this nationality to be able to invest into the shares? And if not, you can always search for asset management companies. And the nice thing about the world that we live in right now is that we can literally search for anything and find the information. So it's important that you ask. Stress that out so much. Use Google like your best friend. I did that in terms of me getting to the level I am in investing. So you need to Google on like what are the asset management companies that are available in, for instance, you are in Zimbabwe, you are in Kenya, or you are in South Africa, you are in Botswana. I don't know, there's so many countries that were mentioned here. Then those asset management companies, and of course, they are registered within the financial services body in that country. And then you look for within those companies, how can you access investments like shares, bonds, and also mutual funds. So definitely that is how you can access these kind of investments. And in that way, then you can also know what is the minimum amount, how much can I start with, where can I start, what do I need to qualify, what do I need to present, etc. So just going into stocks again. So stocks, the way that you can get income from this is two ways. So basically it's through capital gains. So for instance, the example I made with Sasol, you buy a share at 25 Rand. In 2 years time, it goes up to 100 Rand, which means you've made 80 Rand profit on that one share. So obviously the more shares that you had bought before, the more returns as well you would have gotten. And it's important to know that investments are also very long-term, especially things like stocks, like company shares. It's long-term. So you can't expect to invest today and get $1 million tomorrow. It does not work like that. It's something that is very long-term. Hence, then it's always linked to building generational wealth, so that is something to really consider when you go into such investments. And then the other way is through dividends. So the company can give dividends. So other companies, they do it like only once a year, or they can do it quarterly. So quarterly, then it can be 4 times in a year, or they can do it twice a year as well. So then dividends are basically then where they give you like a certain portion of money, right? So for instance, let's say you invested into Sasol and they give dividends. They had a very good year. They had very good profits. So they decide to share some of their profits with their investors, which is you as a person that's invested into your shares. So then a particular portion of that is going to be given to you for having shares in their company. So for instance, they will say that they only give 2%, so 2% per share that you own. That's how they calculate your dividends. So then it goes down to the more shares you have, the more dividends you'll get. So that's also like another way of getting income through this. And then you have bonds. Bonds, they are for people that are assertive, people that do not want risk at all. It's very sure. You know that if you put your money, this money today, you are going to get exactly at that interest rate. So they work at more or less like banks. So however, the interest rates are usually like quite low. So it's usually like at like 3-4% with the government bonds, but it is very definite because there is no risk. It's zero risk at all. Like there's no risk at all. And we have mutual funds. So mutual funds, this is also a first world country term, but in African countries we call it unit trusts. But it's the same thing. So unit trusts, as I always explain it also in my platform, just to make it more easy, it's basically like a basket. So for instance, instead of you buying one particular share or one bond or one, let me make an example, or one international share, right? You buy this basket, and this basket, this unit trust, it basically has your stocks inside, it has bonds inside, it also has international shares as well inside, right? So then this is what we call a unit trust. A unit trust, it's usually the best option if you have not been exposed to the investing world as of yet. Also, the reason why I love the unit trust is because it is passive investing. You don't do it yourself. So this is where you can get it through asset management companies. And just to answer some of the questions, like in the, not questions, but comments, that some people do scam. Yes, people do scam because everything that has to do with money, people do find a way to scam. That's why it's important that whatever that you put yourself into, you always search if that particular company or whatever thing, organization that you are putting your money into is registered with the financial services body. And if it's not, it's definitely a scam, because then, which means the Reserve Bank does not even recognize it at all. So that's a way of you eliminating such things from happening to you. So then another thing, so with the mutual funds, unit trust, so then you can choose that, okay, fine, I want it to be risky, I want it to be also balanced, you know, you're you're in the middle, you're a moderate investor, or you want it to be very for an assertive investor. So the nice thing that I like about unit trust is that you're not the one that goes and researches, okay, I want this one in, I want this one in, I want this one in. You put that trust to the asset management companies, and then they then will pick those things out for you and then give you the best possible unit trust, right? And yeah, I'm not going to go too long into this, because then I don't think time is on my side. So then how to get started? As I said, that you need to search for these companies. So right now, I cannot speak to each and every single country, as I think there's so many countries here, but I can speak to South African countries. So for South African countries, you get your Ellen Gray, you get your Coronation Fund, you get Sanlam, etc. These are just the high esteemed companies that I can talk of, which really have good unit trust. And for the other countries, sometimes you can search for through asking, and also through consulting the internet as well. So I just want to say something, that's the last thought, that someone is sitting in the shade of a tree today because someone planted that tree a long time ago, right? So the reason why you invest, you're not doing it just for yourself, you're not doing it just for your, I don't know, immediate family, but you're doing it for those that are going to come after you. And that's why it's important that when you invest, you look at it from a long-term perspective, and not, what can I get from this in 6 months? What can I get from in a year? But you need to look at it from a very long-term perspective in terms of it building generational wealth. So yeah, that's just my thoughts on that. And then just covering the question that I just got right now on how much do you start with. Every thing, depending on what investment you are speaking of, there are different amounts to start with. But for instance, with stocks, you can start with as little as 100 Rand, right? If you're like individual stocks. And then with mutual funds, you can start depending on the, I'm gonna also speak in rands because then I can't speak for other currencies as well in this case. In terms of like unit trusts, you can also start with as little as 250 in some companies, but definitely it's not a lot of money. Like 250 in South African rands is not a lot of money. So even in other African countries, it won't be a lot of money as well. Just as it's not a lot of money to start investing to unit trust in other first world countries as well. So definitely please like consult on that and research. So yeah, I think I'm going to end up here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miss Angelina. Yo, that was a packed presentation. Don't worry, we, the young female leaders from the Amazon Leadership Initiative, will be camping there by your profile, because we'll be waiting for the financial advices that you usually post there. So do not worry. If you see an increase in your following, we will be there. So I don't know about you ladies, but yo, I've learned so much. I've learned so much. I'm trying to comprehend all of that right now. But without going anywhere, I would like us to take a breather. I'm going to need 3 young female leaders. So here's the question, right? We're just in the middle, by the way. We're just in the middle of our webinar. So I want you to rate on a scale of 1 to 10. How is your knowledge on financial literacy? How is it now? And how was it at the beginning of this webinar? So I'm going to take 3 people for that. You can open your mic, by the way.
Hello, Winnie.
Yes, Hazel, you can continue. How is
I
it?
think mine was 0. Was actually, I wouldn't give it a 0. A 2, I think. But now I'm around 8. I'm still learning. Thank you.
That is wonderful, Hazel. That is wonderful. Thank you. Anyone else?
Hello, guys. We have been having an amazing webinar. My financial literacy was maybe a good one. It was maybe a good one, but after this, it's definitely on 9. Like Miss Hazel, I am still learning, but I have learned so much that I now know where to go in order to get more information and how everything else is connected and how it works. So thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Can I have the last speaker?
Hi guys, I hope all going up. Well, I would say that that was really eye-opening for me because initially, well, I had some background for especially on savings and investment, but then when you hear that someone started all in, so have
Hello,
managed.
Judy. We can't hear you properly.
Okay, I'm saying that was really great. I have learned a lot.
Because personally, or rather, what most of us have in mind is just saving. But then when it comes to investment, we feel that there's a certain kind of people who are, who investment is for them. But as of this evening, I really feel that investment is open to everyone. As long as you take that leap of faith, you can invest, and not necessarily in a business, because when most of us hear investment, we think of starting up a business, which requires a lot of capital and a lot of a lot of work. But I would say that I have really learned that it's not just about a business. You can invest also in other sectors. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Judy. So, ladies, let's get back to our business for tonight. So, what is financial freedom without financial independence? Our next speakers are our lovely associates, and they'll be taking us through financial independence. So, we're going to have Ms. Exelda Mubanga and Associate Liana Shidika, respectively. Who is Associate Exelda? She is a Zambian economist and programs associate at the Amazon Leadership Initiative. With a profound commitment to fostering positive change, Exilda channels her energy and expertise towards empowering young girls and helping them realize their full potential. As an advocate for financial literacy, she passionately equips young women and girls with the essential knowledge and skills they need to navigate the complex world of finance confidently. Exilda's work extends beyond borders as she leverages digital tools to connect with and inspire young people, females, sparkling a transformation in society. Exilda Mubanga is indeed a beacon of hope, using her talents and passion to drive meaningful change and create a brighter future for all. Moving on to Associate Liana. Liana is a young female leader from Namibia who is passionate about mental health awareness, empowerment of the young generation, and advocating for the voiceless. In her quest to be a catalyst of positive change in her community, she gives financial education to the less literate and equips them with the skills to empower themselves. Additionally, she is a banker who serves her people with passion, currently studying towards a degree in law with an aim to become a human rights defender. Ladies and gentlemen, these are the change makers that I'm speaking about. Please welcome Associate Exilda and Liana.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Winnie, for that warm welcome. I'll be unable to turn on my camera tonight. We're currently experiencing some load shedding, so you'll bear with me. I just want to thank the previous speakers for such an informative talk. So me and my colleague are going to be speaking about financial independence. So mostly when we hear about financial independence, mostly we attach it to its monetary form, because mostly you think about if someone is independent, they should be able to have enough income to pay for their expenses, and also with their savings, they should be able to sustain their life either for a year. So those are mostly some of the things that come to mind. And there's also the aspect of just thinking of savings, because we haven't really concentrated much on investments. So there's also the aspect of having to think about our passive income, and just in general how women try to navigate the financial world. So you find that mostly even how we are exposed to certain concepts as women, we are not really included. So there hasn't been much financial inclusion when it comes to women. So currently I'm working under government bonds at my workplace, and one thing I've come to realize was that people who have income with them, like enough income with them, but because they're not really financially independent, they don't really know how to spend that money. So when it comes to the whole concept of financial independence, we talk about people having that monetary security, but also them being able to make informed decisions, because people are not really fully educated on some of these investment plans, some of these savings plans. So you find that mostly we are prone to be schemed by these Ponzi schemes. So mostly because we all want to make an extra income for ourselves, especially when it comes to ladies, because at least once in a month, you want to do your nails, you want to do your hair. So you find that when people come with this package well put, we easily fall into it. And then later we find that you're scammed. So with where I work, it's constantly that people will come, they have this money, but they just don't know what to do with it. So then you realize that we are still lacking behind when it comes to people being fully informed. So financial independence is really important for us, especially young people, because when you're financially independent, it helps you make informed decisions. It makes you make transformative decisions, and basically just your whole well-being, because when you're financially independent as a woman, it's easy to make decisions regarding your life, your career, and also your family. Because when someone isn't financially independent and you're fully dependent on someone, you'll find that you cannot make decisions on your own. Each time you want to make a decision, for example, if you are to get married and maybe you just have a degree and you want to later study and do a master's, because you are unable to support yourself, you find that the decisions you make, you have to consult either with your partner. If your partner says you can't do that master's, it means you're going to sit because you do not have a way out, because you're depending on them to finance that education. So it just goes the same even towards your family. If in a home you're not financially independent, it's very difficult for you to make decisions. And also when it comes to the aspect of economic participation, so how women participate in the economy, how we as women and young girls are contributing to the growth of our economies, comes to play when you're financially independent. So when you're financially independent, you have the income with you, you're able to make informed decisions. It means that through you investing in stocks, through you investing in bonds, you're in some way contributing to economic growth. It's same with our small little businesses that we come up with. When you start to invest in these small businesses, you invest in various investment opportunities out there. Through the small income you're making, eventually you start to contribute to the economy. So eventually, financially independent women will also help with just the general economy of a country and eventually as a region as a whole. Then when it comes to the issue of social inclusion, when women are financially independent, it's much easier for us to fully engage in activities and also take up leadership roles. Because when you have the finances with you, it's easy for you to even start up advocacy. It's easy for you to start up certain activities within your community that will just help fellow women and young girls. So financial independence is really important because it affects so many spheres of our lives. Because even political participation, usually when women are financially independent, they're able to speak up, they're able to advocate for their fellow women. So it makes it much easier for us to fully take up these leadership roles. So just by speaking about these leadership roles, we're able to see through our young female leaders. So even just the leadership that we have within the Southern African Caucus, they've been able to organize such a powerful event, and eventually they're contributing and also increasing the knowledge that other young women and girls have. Because when we start at a very tender age, it becomes much easier because it's something that you grow with and you continue to build on. So there's the aspect of us being financially independent and how we contribute to these various spheres. But then how best do we become financially independent? So there's us being intentional about understanding these concepts of financial literacy, such as budgeting, savings, and investments. And I'm grateful for this leadership for coming up with such an informative session and also building and also helping our young girls, because the Amazon has young girls between the ages of 14 and 29. And as we start to educate one another at a tender age, it means that even those that are starting out with our young sisters who are 14, 15, even from the little change they remain with when they are given pocket money, they start out their little piggy banks. It means that we are instilling that saving spirit within them. And also, you're also teaching them how to budget in some way. And because they are hearing about these concepts of investments at a tender age, it means that when they have that money, they'll be able to make informed decisions. Because I think the problem that we mainly face is that we do not know these concepts, and mostly we find that you have certain lump sums amounts of money, but because you're not well vested you find that you end up wasting your money. So instead of that money being diverted, you'd have maybe bought some stuffs. You find that you either waste it on either buying just clothing, buying some cosmetics, and maybe just going out with some friends. So if we continue to instill some of these concepts within ourselves, when we have that money, even because we're able to budget with smaller amounts, so when you have bigger amounts, it becomes much easier for us to be financially independent and also make those well-informed decisions. Then there's also a need for us to have access to these resources. So apart from the availability of these financial tools and resources, you find that there are savings accounts, there are credit facilities, there are various investment opportunities in the economy. But because we do not have access to these, it becomes a bit difficult for us to actually invest in them. So through sessions like this, it's easier for us to now become more knowledgeable and actually reach out and actually get well vested in this, because at times you find there are commercials running on the TV and eventually they just look like commercials. But when you have sessions like this, it opens your mind so that when you see a poster, it now pushes you, oh, that was what Bontle was talking about during our session. So eventually such sessions widen our minds to also help us to access some of these resources that are available that will help us to invest and eventually help us to become financially independent as young women, because it's really important to be financially independent as a young person, because you won't be easily moved by things, you won't be easily enticed by things, because as a young person, it becomes a very difficult thing to remain true to yourself, especially when you go to university. You find that there'll be older men that are chasing you around, and because you're not financially independent, and others will get swayed and fall into the trap of these elderly men because they are giving them a little something. So it's also important to also have support networks. So just as we as the young female leaders of the Amazon Leadership Initiative, by networking with one another, by having family and friends, we introduce each other to various concepts. And it becomes easy and it helps us to become financially independent. Because time is not on my side, I'm going to allow Lena to take up and finish up the other part of the discussion.
Thank you so much, Associate Exilda. Thank you so much again, Madam Moderator. I hope I'm audible enough. And to our speakers that graced us with their wisdom today, or rather tonight, we appreciate it. From the Amazon Leadership Initiative, we really, really appreciate you. So I'm going to take you through the, oh, by the way, I won't be able to turn on my camera because my network is very, very bad. So I'll be taking you through the ways on how to bridge the gender gap. So before I dive into that, I just want to reiterate the part where Associate Exilda said, when you are financially independent, you also hold the power to make decisions in the household. I love that part because I understand a lot of women are going through a lot in their marriages, because they don't have the finances to make decisions. So you would rather just stay because the person is feeding you, the person is feeding the kids, the person is doing that and that for you. But then if you are financially independent, which is also to say that, which is also to mean that when you're financially independent, you are able to afford your lifestyle. And even if you don't have income tomorrow, or rather, yes, tomorrow or in future, you will still be able to maintain the lifestyle that you've had because you have had savings, you've had investments, etc., etc. So how do we then, or what are the strategies that we can put in place to overcome the challenges regarding the gender gap? So one could be that we need to start addressing the wage disparities. This is where we advocate for equal pay and opportunities in the workplace. I understand it is a norm that there are jobs that are just suited for men and not female. So we need to start advocating for that. We need to enroll ourselves in financial literacy programs, where we can implement programs specifically designed to educate young women about financial management, or rather hold webinars like this. Because as we started with this webinar, the speakers has been talking about investment, about credit scores, which is quite a dilemma in our society, about savings. So webinars like this would also help us in bridging the gap. We also need to come up with policies that promote financial inclusion and those that protect women's economic rights. So why do we have to be financially stable as women? It is a common understanding that financially stable women are more likely to engage in political processes, advocate for change, and hold leadership positions. I want to make a disclaimer here before you all misquote me. I'm not saying that if you are not financially stable, you won't be able to engage in political processes. No, I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that those that are financially stable are more likely to engage in political processes, right? And then we need to, oh yes, I'm talking about the impact. It also breaks down financial barriers that can lead to more equitable cultural practices and norms. It also increases participation of women in the economy, which drives growth as well as innovation, right? So what are the action plans for achieving financial independence? I understand that the previous speakers have talked about this, but I wanted just perhaps to reiterate a bit on what they said. So number one, you need to set clear financial goals. Define to yourself what. Exeter, please mute yourself. Okay. So you need to define what financial independence means to you, and then you need to set achievable targets. Number two, you need to understand the importance of budgeting. You know, when you get paid, like I work for the bank, so I know these things. So when you get paid, you have to buy basic stuff that you need. And I would always tell people that do not buy things that you don't need. So first thing, when you get paid, you need to take out your savings. This is how I started. I didn't have a good paying job when I started working, but then every month when I get paid, I would save at least 10% of my salary. And I knew that, okay, with the rest, I couldn't really afford the kind of lifestyle that I want. But then I told myself that I need to save. So savings is very, very important. And number two, again, you need to stay away from borrowing. I work for the bank, right? The bank is a business. They can come to you telling you all sorts of things. But to be quite honest, it's never really about you. It's about the bank. It's about the interest. And they will sell you all the dreams. They will sell you everything that you need to do. And yes, because you need the money. But sometimes you don't even need the money to buy something important. You just need the money because it's offered to you. And in return, you have to pay a whole lot back to these people. So I would advise that please stay away from borrowing money from the bank unless there's really a need. If you can't say, for example, you want to buy a dress, right? You are invited to an event and then you go to the bank to borrow money to buy a dress. That is unnecessary because you can just wear anything else. But perhaps you can go to the bank and maybe finance your car. Yes, because normally cars are expensive and one needs to have a car for ease of transportation. Okay. And then you need to build support networks, surround yourselves with mentors and peers who support your financial goals. Please don't take financial advice from people who work for the bank. At least take it from me because I'm not, I work for the bank, yes, and I'm very honest about how we conduct ourselves as bankers. But then a banker will tell you that it is important to have a credit card. without telling you the consequences of owning a credit card, right? It's I was telling a friend of mine, when was it, the other day, that you know, these people like high profile clients with businesses and everything, and then they come to the bank offers them things, and these are people who get like income. You get an income, say for example, of 2 million a month, right? So with 2 million you can afford a car of 1 million, like cash. But then the bank will tell you that no, you don't have to buy the car cash. We will finance the car for 3 years, and then. But then you know what the bank is vying for? Is it interest that you have to pay for 3 years? They will never tell you that just buy the car cash, because either way you have the funds. But yeah, so you need to get mentors who can guide you on how to carry out your finances. And also you need to advocate for change. Get involved in advocacy efforts to promote financial inclusion as well as equality. I also wanted to touch a little bit on investments. Please do invest on things that are accredited by the government, because I understand where there's money involved, like the previous speaker said, there's a lot of scamming, and I don't want you guys to fall prey to scammers who are just trying to make money out of other people, right? So engaging with the community, how do we get involved now on the communities? We can participate in webinars like this and engage in events where we can learn, and share our experiences. We can support each other by encouraging other women as well to pursue financial independence and share resources and knowledge. So that is all from my end. I think we have exhausted the 10 minutes that Madam Moderator gave us, but we would like to apologize for that. And with that said, ladies, I will hand over the platform back to Madam Moderator. Please, over to you.
Thank you so much, Associate Exilda and Associate Lena. We really, really took what is due from your presentation. And from what I'm thinking, it's financial independence. It feels like freedom. I don't know if you get it, but it sure feels like freedom. Imagine having access to your investments, being able to pay for your own education. Oh my God. Thank you so much. You think you've had it all? Wait until you hear what Ms. Sarabanda has for us. So she'll be taking us through women and wealth. So Sarabanda is a 28-year-old multifaceted professional with a solid background in financial services and possesses a solid background in financial services. She has a passion for empowering others. She holds a diploma in accounting and financial computing and is also pursuing a Bachelor of Computing and Financial Accounting Science. Where? At UNISA. With the 3 years of experience working in the financial services, Sarah has developed a keen understanding of financial principles and practices. Her diverse experience and commitment to advocacy make her a dynamic and inspiring figure. Through her work, she continues to educate and inspire others through her Chick Tribe digital magazine, making significant impact on her community as the founder and editor. You got that right. She is the founder and editor of the Chick Tribe digital magazine. Please welcome Ms. Sarah Banda.
Good evening, everyone. First, I'd like to thank Winnie for that beautiful introduction and also for taking us through today's session. I also want to compliment the previous speakers for their insightful presentations. I'm thrilled to discuss women and wealth. So these are strategies for bridging the gender gap. My name is Sarah Banda, and I've worked in financial services for well over 3 years. But just to start off, let's start with something fun. If I were to give any of you today 1,000 rands, what would you do with it? Just drop that in the chat box for me while we go through this. presentation, I'll be checking those answers to make sure we know what we're going to buy with that 1,000 rands that I'm giving to you. So before we can actually get to the strategies of bridging the gender gap, let's us understand what the financial gender gap is. The financial gender gap means that women earn less, invest less, and save less for retirement compared to men. For example, globally, women earn about 82 cents for every dollar men earn. And in South Africa, the gender pay gap is approximately 23%, which is quite shocking, don't you think? Why does this gap exist? There are several reasons for this gap. Firstly, societal norms, so traditional gender roles, influence career choices and financial decisions. Secondly, systematic issues, so pay inequality, which my colleague Lena already mentioned, limited access to financial education, which you also mentioned, and fewer women in high-paying jobs and leadership positions. Studies show women are underrepresented in STEM fields where salaries are often higher. So you can understand where this gap is coming from. So not enough women in those positions. Also, we are not being paid enough. So how do we actually overcome these challenges? How do we close the gap? First off, with financial education, learning about money is key. Women should educate themselves on budgeting, saving and investing, which we've already started today. Well done to us. There are many resources available, like online courses, books, and workshops. Research also indicates that financial literacy programs can increase saving rates by up to 30%. So you and I, ladies, are on the right track. So by enrolling in financial literacy programs, we can go up to 30% in saving rates. Career advancement, women should seek mentorship, negotiate salaries, and aim for leadership roles. Companies can also help by ensuring equal pay, promoting diversity, and offering parental leave. It's quite shocking that only 29% of senior management roles are held by women, highlighting the need for more women in leadership, which we've just discussed now. So we also need investment strategies. Investing helps build wealth. Women should start investing early and regularly. Diversifying investments, so using a mix of stocks, bonds, and real estate, which is some of the things that Ms. Angelina mentioned, is also important. So don't be afraid of investing. It's not as hard as it seems, and it pays off in the long run. Also, studies show that women are often more cautious investors, and we can actually outperform men when we do invest. Starting businesses is another path to financial independence. Women should create solid business plans, work on securing funding, and be ready to face the unique challenges that come with entrepreneurship. Networking and mentorship can be very helpful as well. And in Africa, women make up to 58% of self-employed population, showing the potential for entrepreneurial success. So women are actually starting to get there. So we are on the right path. This is how we continue. Building a professional network is essential. Joining women-focused financial and professional organizations provides support and opportunities. Just to recap what I've just mentioned today. So to close off the financial gender gap, we need financial education, career advancement, smart investing, entrepreneurship, and to build strong support networks. So my call to you today, I encourage you to take steps to improve your financial situation, learn about money, seek career growth, start investing, and consider entrepreneurship. Use the resources and networks available to you. Thank you for joining today. If you have any questions or you do want to continue this conversation, please do drop everything in the chat box. Together, we can work towards closing the financial gender gap. Winnie, thank you so much for the time. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Sarah. That was really informative. And my take from what you just said is that we as young female leaders stand a better chance of becoming wealthy because we're going to start investing early, and we are working on that 58% of self-employed women. We can get it to at least 80%. Yes. So without any further ado, I would like to give it up to my co-worker, my teammate, Miss Anjali, will be taking us through the Q&A as of now.
Hello everyone. Thank you, Winnie. You have been doing a great job, my sister. And thank you to our speakers and esteemed guest speakers for this very enlightening webinar. And thank you to all our YFers for gracing us with their presence, especially on a Saturday night. Sadly, this session is coming to an end, but it cannot be complete without the Q&A, the question and answers. So if anyone has any question, please feel free to write it down in the chat box or raise your virtual hand. And also, do not forget to mention your name, your country, and if you want to address your question to a specific speaker, do not forget to mention their name. So while you're commenting the question, let me ask the first question to Miss Angelina. So Miss Angelina, what inspired you to pursue a career in finance, in financial literacy?
What inspired my journey? Oh my goodness, that is such a long story. Just to make it short, so my dad, when growing up, my dad would always show me his investment reports, and I didn't understand, where does that money come from? Who is growing that money? So I think that built so much curiosity growing up from a young age, and coming to deciding the which course I want to study. I was like, you know what? I don't know exactly what is this course that's going to help me understand what my dad was showing me, but then I want that. So then I took a gap year after my matric year, which is grade 12, the last year of high school. And that's where like I start like finding myself sort of. So then I started doing like this economics course. I was like, okay, I actually like economics, you know, I like learning about the economy. And through learning about the economy, that's where then I started learning about investments and things like that. So then I was like, you know what, I think this is it. This is definitely what I was seeing in my dad's report. So that was what actually like led me to studying finance. And in terms of financial literacy and just starting the Money Space 101, I did not go to varsity through a bursary or government bursary or anything like that. My father was the one financing everything because of other challenges. So I just got rejected from all those finance bursaries. So my dad was like, no, don't worry, I'll cover that. And when I look back at that, I think to myself, if my dad had not started investing towards our education when he started working, I wouldn't even be here speaking to all of you right now, because then I wouldn't have been able to study. I would have decided to work and not go to study, because then I was rejected in terms of getting funding. But my dad was like, no, you can go to school. I have the money that's going to take you to school, because he had been investing. So I think from that whole experience and how it shifted me, I was like, you know what, I want to do something that's going to help another parent out there, you know, just the same way that whoever was that financial advisor, whoever was that person that spoke to my dad and actually motivated him in that age, especially knowing that probably in the 90s, this is something that was very uncommon for Black people, but he did that, and I just want to also do something like that as well. So yeah, that is basically why. I hope I was clear.
Thank you so much, Miss Angelina. So now I will take on the second question, and it goes to Dr. Babita Tanu. If you could go back in time, what financial advice would you give to your younger self?
Hi again. I think personally, I was quite right in the past for my education to go for scholarships, which I did obtain, but I also worked for one degree. And thinking back, yes, I do understand the need to invest early, particularly in education. However, looking back, as you say, I think it's also important to know when investing, what are we investing in? Because we do have to bear in mind now that investing for returns, obviously, it's about financial independence. It's about moving forward, being having more say in matters, as was mentioned very, very clearly, and I totally agree. We need to bridge the financial gender gap. However, we have come to a point with the climate crisis and the constant crisis that we're facing to reconsider investment as a whole. What are we investing? And if I were to look back, I would start teaching about divesting from very early on. From the moment I've been teaching about the Anthropocene, the contemporary era of complete uncertainty and reaching tipping points, breaking boundaries, etc. So I would really engage with responsible investment, sustainable investment, and responsible shareholding. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Babita. Now from the chat box, there's Elizabeth from South Africa who has directed a question to Ms. Sarah Banda. So she's asking, to someone who is interested in finance and the financial world, but it seems daunting, how can we simplify it and make it accessible to everyone? Because we need to be financially literate to make good choices. So over to you, Sarah.
Thank you for that beautiful question, Elizabeth. And I do agree that, financial literacy when you're starting off can be quite daunting. However, we need to simplify it, let's start by simplifying it to everyday budgeting and saving, relating it to everyday examples where you take out a pen and paper and you start, your budgeting for the month. That is how we start. That is how you know you're in the right direction. Like we mentioned, financial literacy webinars, classes, courses, where you get people who are actually clued up in this, explaining it in simpler terms, making it easier to understand. There are a lot of podcasts as well that you can listen to now. So information online is quite simplified now, easy to digest and to understand. I think for somebody who's interested, that is a good way to start. By being here, I think you are making the right move. So that is what I have to say for now.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sarah. Hope the answer that Sarah gave, it answers your question, Elizabeth. Now we have a question for Miss Hazel from the chat box. How does not having any debt or credit affect your credit score and also your employment opportunities? The question is from Itumelenge Mpie from South Africa. Over to you, Hazel.
Hi again. So, okay. Having no debt or credit can affect your credit score and employment opportunities in the following ways. For the credit score, no credit history or a thin credit file can make it difficult for lenders to evaluate your credit worthiness. Another point, you may be considered a credit as credit invisible, making it challenging to obtain loans or credit cards. I think we all know what the word invisible means. Another point, a lack of credit history can result in a lower credit score or no score status at all. So you won't be as credit worthy as someone who has a credit score. As for employment opportunities, I think some employers may check credit scores as part of hiring processes, particularly jobs involving finance or money management. And also, a lack of credit history or a low credit score may raise concerns about your financial responsibility and stability. But however, it's important to note that employers must obtain your consent before checking your credit score and can only use it for specific purposes. That's all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you, Hazel. Now, Sarah, get ready for another question from Miss Marie Rebecca Jolicoeur from Mauritius. So she's asking, Mauritius is one of the world's safe fiscal haven. Do you think that imposing higher taxation on corporates will help reduce high cost of living, housing prices, etc.?
Thank you so much for that beautiful question. Imposing higher corporate taxes could potentially help reduce the cost of living and housing prices if additional revenue is effectively used to fund social programs, affordable housing, and things such as subsidies. However, it's important to consider that higher taxes might increase operating costs for businesses, which could be passed on to consumers as higher prices. And additionally, significant tax hikes could deter foreign investment, affecting economic growth. So I'm looking at a balanced approach with moderate tax adjustments and efficient use of this revenue, along with policies to make sure that we stimulate economic growth and we can address these issues that we've just mentioned sustainably. Thank you so much for the question.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. We will not be able to take more questions. However, you can still contact our speakers. They will leave their contact details in the chat box. So before we end, let me end this Q&A by asking the speakers and guest speakers to share one fun fact about themselves very quickly. So Sarah, go ahead.
Hi, Anjali. I didn't quite get that. Anjali?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear
Am I
you.
audible?
Yes, I
Yes.
can hear you.
Can you share one fun fact about yourself?
One fun fact. Oh, there's a lot, but currently I've been nominated for an Emerging Young Leader Award hosted by the Female Founders Initiative Global. And I've been invited to go to Dubai. So yeah, I'm a female founder, and that's one fun fact about me.
Congratulations, Sarah. Congratulations. Now, Dr. Babita, can you share one fun fact about yourself?
Hi, yeah, I tend to think that it is quite fun actually to be against the general capitalist current. So I'm a total sponsor of degrowth and divestment because these have been the main tools for resistance for indigenous cultures across America against the main fossil fuel companies that have been destroying the sacred land. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Danu. Over to you, Angelina. One fun fact about yourself, please.
I'll say one fun fact and very weird fact about me is that I'm currently pursuing 2 master's degree at the same time. Yeah, don't ask me how I do it. Yeah, it's a lot.
So now, Hazel, can you share one fun fact about you?
Hello. So I would say one fun fact about me. I'm currently pursuing this other program it's called ELC Young Leaders Careers Develop Program funded by the USAID. And I'm glad to say I'm almost halfway through and it's been amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Hazel. Thank you so much to Miss Sarah, Miss Hazel, Miss Angelina, and Dr. Babita. Now, over to you, Winnie.
Thank you, Anjali. Thank you for taking us through the Q&A. So right about now, we are about to depart. So this is not up for discussion, ladies. This was a really enlightening and educational webinar. And I hope it is to you what it is to me. And I've learned so much. And I realized that the way to gaining financial freedom as a woman, it is none other than to be mindful of my spending, willing to take risks, investing, and just living within my means. that is the way, ladies. So I'll be hearing from you in our different groups. You can inbox us, comments that you have, suggestions. We are open to suggestions. And we hope that we have a seminar like this, hopefully next year. Good. So I would like to thank you for spending this evening with us from the Southern Africa Caucus. We are really grateful for this moment and would like to send a special thank you to our guest speakers for acknowledging our invitations. So, as we all know, we have to take our family photo. So I'm going to ask that we all open. Yes, please turn on your cameras for the family photo. And then on a count of 3, we're going to say our slogan, the usual: Black child, your dreams are valid, right? So please do that. Oh, Anjali, I see you. Lovely. Turn on your cameras, ladies. Ooh, Cassie, Lorraine, Busisu. Oh, Elizabeth. I see you, girl. I see you, Wednesday. Great, Hazel. I see you. I see you, baby girl. Oh, lovely, lovely. Okay, so on a count of 3, we are going to say, Black child, your dreams are valid, right? So 3, 2, 1. Black child,
your dreams
your
are
dreams are valid.
valid.
Say it like you mean it. Say it like you mean it, girl. We're going to go again. 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Black child,
Your
your
dreams
dreams
are
are
valid.
Good night, everybody. Thank you for making time to spend with us this evening. Lovely. Oh, you all look lovely. Oh, my word. Good night, everyone. Thank you so much.
Winnie. Good night. Bye.
Let's see.